KRCB, Northern California Public Media. On the next episode of Natural Heroes,
if we as a generation fail, everybody's going to pay the price.
The global climate crisis is an issue that's going to affect our future. If we don't push our leaders to take action now, we're going to have to live with the consequences of what we failed to do.
But if we succeed, we're not only going to save ourselves, but we're going to save future generations and this planet.
major funding for Natural Heroes is provided by Alice's Garden. Experience the wonder of nature with pure and natural products. Additional support provided by the Left Foundation.
I think my generation and young people in general are not only uniquely capable, but we have no other choice but to make the shift towards a more sustainable way of life in general. I'm Adarsha Shivakumar, and I'm trying to create a more sustainable way of life in rural South India to help poor farmers and the environment.
With the help of his sister Apurva and the cash prize that he received for winning the California State Spelling Bee, Adarsha founded Project Jatropha to promote the Jatropha plant as an ecologically friendly and economically sustainable source of biofuel in rural India. The project helps to empower local farmers and women's self-help groups by supplying Jatropha seedlings and then buying back the valuable Jatropha seeds at a fair market price.
If we as a generation fail, everybody's going to pay the price. But if we succeed, we're not only going to save ourselves, but we're going to save future generations and this planet. Every 2 years, we actually go to India, and my dad has had connections with Parivartana. It's an NGO, and they essentially organize women's self-help groups in these rural villages to try to help lift these women out of poverty. We decided to see, like, if we could actually do anything instead of just, like, all talk and no action doesn't really help anybody in the end. And after quite a bit of research, we came upon this plant called Jatropha.
Jatropha grows almost anywhere and is particularly suited to the climate of southern India. And when the seeds are crushed, the resulting oil can be processed to create a high-quality and clean-burning biodiesel that emits negligible greenhouse gases.
And we decided to see if we could use Jatropha maybe as a biofuel and incorporate it somehow with the women in the self-help groups and see maybe if they could grow it and sell it.
In the summer of 2008, Adarsha and his sister held several town hall meetings with villagers in rural Karnataka, answering questions and explaining the goals and plan of execution for the project.
The farmers, right now, they're growing tobacco. The big thing was that tobacco is a rather destructive crop. You can really see the scale of the industry here. In order to sell tobacco, you must cure it. And curing involves burning large quantities of firewood in order to do so.
The increasing demand for firewood has led to deforestation in the nearby Nagarhole and Rajiv Gandhi National Park and Wildlife Sanctuary.
And what's really bad is the government is not offering any alternative crops.
Adarsha enlisted local company Labland Biotechs to provide the farmers with high-quality seedlings and education in effective Jatropha cultivation.
We evenly distributed 1,000 Jatropha seedlings among these farmers, and in addition we gave them some agronomic training because we wanted to make sure that they could really utilize this plant to their full potential.
The Jatropha plants will reach maturity in 2 to 3 years when the farmers can harvest the seeds and sell them back to Labland Biotechs for 10 rupees per kilogram.
Labland Biotechs will convert these seeds into biodiesel via using a mechanical process. Every part of the Jatropha seed is used, and every chemical is reused over and over. And that's what makes it really, really cool. With the profits that we'll make, some of it can go back to the farmers. For the rest of it, what we're going to do is we're going to reinvest it into the system and buy more jatropha seedlings to give to more farmers. We're going to have a small nursery built at Prairie Verthana where the farmers can sort of pick up jatropha seedlings. If we get a nursery going in Prairie Verthana, that will mean the farmers are truly self-sufficient. They don't need us as a middle person, and neither is Laban Biotechs, which is our ultimate goal, really.
He's brilliant, but beyond that, he's just absolutely magnificently compassionate and filled with love. And so all of those things together make him a joy to work with.
We can't really generalize and say, this is my water, this is my air, this is my land, when everything's so interconnected. We need to have a sense of duty, not just to each other, but to planet Earth. And in my view, it's that if there's any goal that my generation should have, it's to save the planet first and then save humanity. Because even if we win and we save humanity, but the planet dies, we can't live without it either.
I'm inspired by the people whose health have been, threatened as a result, whose families have been threatened, and still they keep on fighting. I'm Sierra Murdoch, and I am working to connect people all across the country who are being impacted by the irresponsible use and burning of coal.
Sierra serves as national coordinator of the Power Past Coal Project, an effort to unite for the first time in history a nationwide movement of people who know coal is unjust and have the stories to prove it. Through marches, lobby days, rallies, and acts of nonviolent civil disobedience, Power Past Coal helped amplify the voices of coal-impacted communities across the nation.
Stopping coal is so important to stopping climate change. Coal accounts for over 50% of our electricity use in the United States. At the beginning of the project, we had aimed to have one action every day for the first 100 days of President Obama's administration. By the end, we ended up with over 300. The purpose of having 100 actions in 100 days was to show this national movement and show that it was strong, it was powerful, it was numerous. Stories were the heart and soul of this project, and stories were really a way to assemble, a wide range of different ways that people were being impacted by coal.
I hate what they're doing to these mountains. I mean, centuries old mountains, like I told you, I hunted and hiked those mountains from the time I was 6 years old, and it's not been that long ago when, you'd be in the mountains hunting or, whatever, and get thirsty, you'd, drink out of a little stream coming out of the ground or something like that, never give it a thought. But you don't do that now.
So we had a story of someone who was fighting coal plants in their community and whose community was suffering from asthma. And we had stories of people who were fighting waste disposal on the Navajo lands. But together, those stories told a larger story. The fact that coal is dirty and it's dangerous at every stage of its cycle. We want to transition fully away from coal as swiftly and as justly as possible, and that would begin with a moratorium on new coal plants and those under construction, an end to very dangerous and destructive mining practices, a reinvestment in the communities that are being directly impacted by coal with green job opportunities and with sustainable economic development.
Over the course of Power Past Coal's 100 days of action, 5 mountaintop removal permits were suspended across Appalachia, and several communities were able to stop construction of coal-fired power plants. Eloise Brown, a Navajo woman in Desert Rock, New Mexico, helped lead an effort to stop an $85 million tax break, preventing construction of a new coal-fired power plant on Navajo land.
The way that this project did bring them together was very beneficial to bringing their voices to the nation's leaders and people that they hadn't quite been able to reach before.
Sierra is one of the most diligent, helpful people that we've had anywhere within any of our organizations, because she put in countless hours of work for us. I mean, she's just tremendous.
I think we've really built a very powerful base of people who are fighting coal. Young people definitely realize that this is a major challenge of our generation. This is something that could, in many ways, make or break our futures. It's an idea that we really need to take on and be serious about as a country.
Well, I think this whole generation can kind of feel that there's something going on. We can feel that there's a crisis, and we're ready to do whatever we can to fix it. My name is Alec Lures. I'm 15 years old and I founded Kids vs. Global Warming.
When do we want it? Now! Says who? I do!
Alec founded Kids vs. Global Warming at the age of 12 after seeing Al Gore's climate documentary, An Inconvenient Truth. Since then, Alec has given hundreds of presentations, spearheaded multiple global warming education projects around Ventura County, and inspired hundreds of other kids to do the same in their communities across the nation.
The global climate crisis is an issue that's going to affect our future. If we don't push our leaders to take action now, we're going to have to live with the consequences of what we failed to do.
Scientists who specialize in global warming.
That night after I saw An Inconvenient Truth, I could just feel something changed inside of me, and something just clicked, and I knew I was being called to stop global warming within my lifetime.
The temperature gets warmer.
So I went to school the day after watching the movie, and I was kind of talking about it, and one of my best friends starts going off on how global warming isn't real, Al Gore's a psycho, it's all a hoax. So I went home that night and I stayed up till like 2 in the morning researching all I could possibly learn about the global climate crisis, and I put together my first presentation.
Alec wrote to the organization that was training 1,000 people to give Al Gore's presentation on global warming, but was initially rejected and told he was too young.
I just kind of got to work. I created my own presentation from scratch. After I had given like 30 of my own presentations, I finally got to meet Al Gore.
He has given 30 slideshows.
So Al Gore ended up personally inviting me to his next training session in Nashville, Tennessee, and I then became the youngest trained presenter of his Inconvenient Truth presentation.
For the last few years, Alec has traveled constantly throughout California and across the country, inspiring youth to join the fight against global warming.
Well, I guess one of the main resources I give to kids is just teaching them about the climate crisis and educating them about the science in ways they can understand. I use some of the same slides as Al Gore's, but I kind of grungify some of them a little bit, just so that it's more exciting for kids to look at. I like to use videos and music and social networking so that kids are excited about learning and are excited about getting involved. I think this whole generation can feel inside of them that there's a crisis. They just need someone to tell them that they actually can do something about it. The more I've learned about the climate crisis, the more empowered I become to do something about it and to make real change. I saw an image on Google Earth of what Ventura would look like if the sea level rose 20 feet, and it just blew me away. I mean, half of Ventura would be underwater. I created this project called SLAP. It stands for Sea Level Awareness Project, and it's a community activism project designed to raise awareness of the issue of sea level rise. Here's the causes of global warming. Over here, there's the effects of global warming. We went to city council meetings, we worked to get the permissions, and we got all these materials donated, and we installed these 9-foot poles along the beach here in Ventura. The reaction has been extremely positive. I mean, people are finally starting to realize that we're just totally taking advantage of having this spot now, and in 100 years it might not be here if we don't take action now. I had this idea to do a declaration of independence from fossil fuels. Now it's grown into a whole national campaign. We, the youth of America, no longer want to be governed by the fossil fuel industry. And we're going to be getting 350,000 signatures of young people and presenting it to President Obama. We demand that action be taken now. And we already have like 4,000 or 5,000 signatures already.
He found something he was passionate about and he went for it. And I think that what he can do is show other youth that, you know, they do have a voice, and if you're passionate about something, go for it.
When JFK issued his challenge that America would put a man on the moon and bring him back safely within 10 years, everyone thought that was crazy and that we could never do that. In 8 years, we had a man on the moon. And if you look at the mission control room that day, the average age of those men was 26. What we're talking about is really a global shift in the way we think about everything we do. We have all the technology and resources to do this. All it's going to take is people realizing that we need to do it now.
Environmental justice to me means when communities come together and fight for our neighborhoods, fight for sidewalks, fight for clean air, fight for schools and, parks and recreation. My name is Diana Lopez. I'm the environmental justice organizer with Southwest Workers Union here in San Antonio.
The Southwest Workers Union is an organization of low-income workers and families, community residents, and youth united in one organizational struggle for worker rights, environmental justice, and community empowerment. Diana is the driving force behind the Roots of Change Community Garden, a groundbreaking project that is helping redefine environmental justice in our San Antonio community and beyond.
My roots, my heritage, my culture, my family are very important because that's sort of the base of where I come from.
In 2007, the Southwest Workers Union organized local residents to successfully defeat the proposed installation of 2 1-million-gallon diesel fuel tanks on the east side of San Antonio, an area already plagued by industrial contamination and poverty.
So these were the 2 areas that were being proposed for the fuel tanks. You have two schools, an elementary and a high school. Across the street right here, you have this whole community of people too.
For Diana and the many local youth she helped rally in the fight against the fuel tanks, the victory and the struggle itself inspired them to create a healthy space of their own. The Roots of Change Community Garden teaches local youth and other residents about gardening, nutrition, sustainable technology, and food security, while also producing fresh organic fruits and vegetables which are scarce in this low-income neighborhood.
It stands as a statue in a place that for years and years has been used as a dump. And I feel that's part of environmental justice, is being connected with your environment, being connected with the soil, with the vegetables that you eat. To me, food sovereignty means having the power to create your own food, but also having it within groceries, like having fresh organic food and having farmers markets available to people who are excluded from the fresh food market.
Diana is an amazing community organizer, and one of the things I love about her is how she's changing and challenging what we think of as an environmentalist. She's really reclaiming a family heritage that's very strongly connected to the land. Diana really took the lead in getting youth involved in the garden and really making it what it is.
My role is to show the young people in my community those alternatives that weren't given to me when I was in school and when I was younger. One thing that keeps me going and that keeps me organizing is the faces on the children when they grow things. It's just amazing. When the kids come in the garden, they're like, wow, that's where beans come from, or wow, that's where bananas come from. And it's like, can I have one? It's sort of like, you know, you're getting closer to where your food comes from, and it's really something positive for you, and that kind of gives you more, more courage to do other things within your community.
My greatest dream is to be able to sustain myself and the communities of people in the world as ecologically sound as possible. My name is Hai Vo. I'm part of the Real Food Challenge, and I organize youth around sustainable food systems here at the University of California, Irvine.
The Real Food Challenge is a national movement to increase the procurement of real food on college and university campuses. As co-founder of the Real Food Challenge at the University of California, Irvine, Hai spearheaded a trailblazing study of the university's institutional food procurement and its effects on the food system and its myriad stakeholders.
Growing up, I was pretty husky, pretty heavy. I saw someone who was unhealthy, and I didn't know how that high at that time got to where he was. I put on my short shorts and my headband, and I started running. That really became the defining moment.
After enrolling at UC Irvine, Hai and another student submitted a research proposal aimed at better understanding how food is produced, processed, and distributed at the university.
Food wasn't part of my thinking until I came to UCI and started to fend for myself. What did it mean for me to eat? The Real Food Challenge at UCI looked into 3 things. We looked into research. What does a food system look like at a university? We looked at how do we educate our campus and local community about our food systems. And finally, we looked at how do we best advocate for a sustainable food system. We were going into our dining halls and kitchens, getting as much information as possible. You know, we would bring our notebooks, pens and paper. Sometimes we went into the freezers. We were using a new and evolving tool called the Real Food Calculator.
The Real Food Calculator is a tool used to quantify and code purchases by institutions of higher education, measuring how ecologically sound, community-based and local, humane and fair the foods are.
We found that UC Irvine procures
about 10% real and sustainable food. The goal of the Real Food Challenge at UCI and within the National Real Food Challenge Network is to shift to 20% real food by 2020.
Under High's leadership, over 500 students, faculty, and community members formed the first ever Real Food educational series.
We had movie screenings, panels, dinners, going on farm tours.
He brought together his peers, he brought together different parts of the university, he brought together community groups, and he made people feel that what they were producing was a communal project.
I feel like humans are trying to optimize their life. I dream about the day where students and the communities around me are eating food that is ecologically sound, humane, fair, and as community-based as possible.
What really inspires me is the possibility that my life might actually have a lasting impact, a positive impact on the people of the world and future generations. I'm Robin, I live here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I work as the Outreach Coordinator for the Wilderness Committee Manitoba chapter.
Manitoba is home to the largest section of intact wild boreal forest left on Earth, but much of Manitoba's forests have already been heavily impacted by logging and mining. Robin's organizing was instrumental in a landmark campaign victory that protected nearly 1 million acres of forests in Manitoba's parklands, and he continues to work vigorously to protect Canada's remaining boreal forests once and for all.
We've got the largest forest in the Northern Hemisphere, and this is something to be excited about. It's something that should be a part of our identity. The whole world should know about it. We really like to just reach out to everyday Manitobans. One of the best ways of doing that is just knocking on somebody's door and having a casual but direct conversation with them. Yeah, I could give you a piece of literature here about our newest campaigns.
Robin's outreach efforts generated tens of thousands of letters and helped create a critical mass of support for saving the boreal forests. In November 2008, the government of Manitoba announced a ban on nearly all logging in provincial parks.
That's 1 million acres of provincial park land that was once in danger of being logged, that's moved out of that category and will be protected from this harmful activity in our parks.
Robin was really instrumental in getting park logging banned. He started having meetings with the conservation minister. He was able to sit down and say, this shouldn't be happening, and I'm telling my friends and I'm telling everybody I meet that this is happening and we can change that.
It's really the Amazon of the North. The boreal forest is actually the largest storehouse of fresh water on the planet. When we're talking about protecting this forest, we're talking about a huge hope for mitigating our climate. That's a really, really inspiring thing to be working on, and that's what drives me to work tirelessly to protect it.
Down below we're seeing some of the clear cuts around the Springer Lake area. This is just a tiny little part of the whole resource extraction project that's affected our park so much.
Clear-cutting destroys wildlife habitats, denies the soil critical nutrients, and has an overall devastating effect on ecosystems.
What we're looking at here is an older cut block. It's been replanted, and so it kind of looks like a little green and everything, but what you don't see is soil's been really affected. It's a very sterile environment. This earth here has a thick layer of sawdust covering the whole thing. It's not going to be able to support any growth for the next few decades. We're looking at a really perfect example of what we're outraged about in this park, illegal logging activity like this slab pile. This is basically just using an area of our park as a dumping area for the scrap leftovers of the logging process. It really adds insult to injury when you have this type of illegal stuff going on in a park. We need forests like this for the survival and the flourishing of future generations of people. It is possible to see widespread change if you just stick to something, and sometimes it seems like you're not getting anywhere, like the answer is coming back like we can't change this, or it's too complicated, or we don't have enough support, but just keep pushing and great things can happen.
Major funding for Natural Heroes is provided by Alice's Garden. Experience the wonder of nature with pure and natural products. Additional support provided by the Left Foundation. On the next episode of Natural Heroes,
es público, es un bien de dominio público no patrimonial, que eso quiere decir que no le pertenece a nadie, es como el aire, no le pertenece a nadie.
Pero entonces le toca a la sociedad civil decir, espérate, si la agencia de gobierno no actúa, pues le toca al pueblo actuar. Y el pueblo tiene que hacer algo porque el pueblo no puede seguir perdiendo su derecho, legítimo derecho a accesar las playas y disfrutar de ellas.
For more information about Natural Heroes, to purchase videos, or to submit your film, visit naturalheroes.org or call 1-800-287-2722. KRCB, Northern California Public Media.